Hi.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Culturamo. This is the third weekend, second session, and we are talking to Tim Hatch today. And Tim is a poet in the Pomona Valley, who is, I think, just an excellent teacher. And he's also one of my favorite writers, and he's also just one of my favorite people. So, and you have a new book coming out, and it's actually going to. I'm thinking of it as your launch party. You're probably thinking of something else as your launch party. It's going to be our very last session of Culturama. He's going to be the keynote speaker with his newest book from Bamboo Dart Press. All right, so Tim Hatch.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I at some point I'm going to, or it's not going to be this year, but at some point I'm going to organize a launch party that's actually in person. But yeah, my book, actually, I've got a whole stack of them. Wild Embrace by Tim Hatch. And I'll, if I remember, I'll put a link up to where you can buy it. Not that I'm shamelessly promoting myself, but I am. So thanks for being here. There's a lot of people here. You have it here, like 20 people. So I guess what I'd like to do real quick is just get everyone to introduce themselves real quick and just, I don't know, name and just one thing about yourself, whatever you feel like sharing. I will start. My name's Tim Hatch. I just last week was the release date for my book, Wild Embrace. I've been writing poetry for 9 years. I wrote poetry for probably 30 years, but it was all dirty limericks prior to 9 years ago. So that doesn't really count. And what else? I don't know. That's probably enough about me. We don't need to record everything about how cool I am for posterity. So I'm just going to go in order of who I see on my screen. So Kate Arletti, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes.
Hi.
I'm in New Zealand, and I've been writing poetry seriously for 20 years. Nice. And I'm working on my third collection. Something interesting about me is I've traveled the world and absolutely love crashing other people's cultures.
Well, I'm jealous for two things. One, I'm jealous for New Zealand, and I'm also jealous of all the travel. New Zealand's currently my fantasy country for where I want to escape to.
Definitely, you need to come. Yep.
I'm a big fan of how you guys have handled the last year and a half. All right, Tiffany, who are you?
Hi, so my name is Tiffany Elliott, and I am a poet. I've been writing poetry since I was 6, but I've been really studying poetry again in the last 10 years. And I'm located in Long Beach, California.
Awesome, thank you. Tom?
My name is actually, Thomas. Can't just reject me. And
it's because I called you Tom. I apologize.
What?
It's because I called you Tom. I apologize for that.
I'm Tom, Tommy, Thomas. And there's a few things that I will hate you if you call me.
I promise never to do that.
I'm not Tom.
Yeah, I think I have called you that once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know when. Hey, I'm going to shut up and let you talk.
I've been writing since I was 18, and was like 1973. Finally I got a little publishing in the 80s, but really peaked my writing around 2001 or so, and I have a few books published.
Nice.
I also published a small press of poetry called the Royal Seiko Press too. So
I own several of those books too.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. Awesome, thank you. Lavina?
Yeah, I got an MFA degree and then sort of left off writing for quite a few years, or didn't write well, and then came back to it maybe 20 years ago. and in a workshop with some people, have been there for quite a while. And finally have a book and a chapbook out in the world for someone to publish if they will.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's hard sometimes to, you get the MFA degree and then it's hard to immediately go into publishing. There's a lot of work we have to do to pay bills that kind of gets in the way of all that writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I graduated 5 years ago and this book was supposed to come out any time now after graduation, and a lot of things got in the way. Anyway, I'm glad to hear that you've got those out. That's excellent. Aruni?
Did you say Randy?
Aruni,
Oh,
Hi, I'm
oh,
Aruni. I'm a big fan of Tim Hatch.
thank you.
Congratulations on your book. The review is coming. I am in the last 10% of finishing my full-length collection, and then have to like go into crazy revision mode, and so I will probably disappear from view. But
Congrats on that, by the way.
thank you. It's weird to think that I will have something I can hold in my hands that's just mine.
I know, it's awesome.
Super surreal experience. I started writing in 2017. I started writing poetry in 2017 at the request of someone who's become a dear friend, as a way to process some grief. And I was going to write just the one poem, and look what happened.
Nice.
Poetry ate my life.
It got its hooks into you.
But
That's awesome.
but yeah, it seems like now all of my nearest and dearest friends come from poetry land. So so glad we met, Tim.
I am too. Although I think we met through Dungeons and Dragons the first time.
Shh.
Oh, my bad. No, it was definitely poetry. Let's see, Nina.
There's two Ninas, but I'll jump in.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hey, it's all right. So I'm Nina Nazir. I'm in Birmingham in the UK. I don't have a book out. I like poetry. I like all the arts. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Daniel, how you doing, man?
Good to see you, Tim.
Likewise.
I'm Daniel. I've been writing most of my life, but I hid it from myself and everybody else as much as I could. And about 10 years ago, I decided, wait a minute, this is what I really want to do. And so I have been writing ever since. Found a lot of my poems in my pockets as I was doing laundry and wondered who wrote that beautiful thing. I'm not trying to quote. So there were little notes to myself to kind of keep me online. And so now I have nothing published. I've published a couple of poems in a couple of small journals, but mostly I just have a big stack of writing that I need to edit, and I don't like editing. So
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I'm looking forward to this. I've been to a couple of your other poetry things at the Culturama, and I've always enjoyed it. So
Thanks, Daniel. And by the way, I would love to see if you actually got that stuff edited and revised and collected, because I know you're a good poet. I remember some of the things you've read in years past.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah. Randy?
yeah. Randy Quiros is my name. I'm from Southern California. I'm a fan of Tim's work, and I have been writing lyrics most of my life, and I realize there's a difference. Though there are lyrical poems and poetic lyrics, they are not the same thing, in my mind at least. So I'm relatively new to poetry.
Right on. Thanks, man. Kelsey?
Hi, I don't have a formal education in poetry, but I have been writing pretty much my whole life. And a fun fact is I also want to go to New Zealand. I'd love to visit. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, nice. Me too. I also want to go see the Shire, but that's more of my nerd stuff. Carrie, hey.
Hey, So I've been writing all my life. Luckily, I didn't publish anything until this last year, though. I actually, a fun fact about me is that I burned everything that I ever wrote in the huge bonfire, like when I had my son, because I didn't want him to happen onto anything that I wrote during my teenage years. So that's kind of funny.
I kind of love that.
Yeah, so it's all gone, so nobody can ever read it. So
I've got some stuff that was published in the 90s that I pray to God no one ever finds. It was obviously before the internet. It was, as far as I know, there have never been electronic copies of it made. And if I could go back in time, I would prevent myself from writing it. But hey, whatever. So let's see. Nano Norto, if I'm pronouncing that right.
That is correct.
Awesome.
You know, there are usually more than one Nancy, so it's really easy just to call me Nano.
I can do that.
I write poetry and fiction,
Awesome.
sometimes in Northern California, sometimes in the southwest corner of France.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. Perry.
Hi, I'm Perry. Kind of like Kelsey, I don't have any formal education in writing, but my mom was a lit major and loved the romantics and the beats. So that's kind of some weird melange of those two things. I started writing like directedly, I guess, about 3 years ago, and I just started like writing seriously probably in February. I've had 16 individual pieces published since June, and I have a chapbook coming out in December 4th.
Nice.
So I'm super excited about that.
That's fantastic. Congrats.
Thanks.
For the record, I don't think a formal education in poetry or writing or any of that is necessary. It just matters. I think all that matters is writing.
Yeah, come from the heart.
Let's see. Nina Lewis.
Sorry, yeah, I had a call I had to do.
That's all right.
I'm in the UK. I'm probably not that far from Nina Nazir. I'm Midlands based. And I'm a poet. I've got 2 chapbooks and I've been writing seriously for about 7 years.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Let's see. I've already talked to Nano. No one wants to know who John is. Joy? No offense, John. Joy Hancock? And if Joy is not here at the moment, then maybe Michelle?
Michelle's my wife, and I asked permission. I can talk about her.
Oh, okay. Right on.
I'll try not to say too much. She's loved poetry since she was probably 8 or so, I guess. No confirmation or denial.
Okay.
And she actually has written a few. My first anthology I published, I made sure that she got a poem in there. And all of my books are dedicated to her. She's an avid reader. Got me my reading to be much more diverse than it used to be. Got me into science fiction and Star Trek, etc.
Nice.
And one of her many accomplishments, she worked in Long Beach Unified School libraries for many years. So she's a wonderful reader to read to kids, etc. too. So I could wax poetic more about her. Actually, I have.
Yes, I know, and I love it.
Actually, at least one book about her.
Yeah, that's awesome. My wife is pressuring me for the same.
Yeah, she gets all my love poems.
Yeah, I've got a little chapbook that I published just for her. It's a limited edition of 1. Okay, if I'm saying this correctly, Hiba?
Hi, yes, Hiba.
Hi.
I've been writing since I was 17. I write poetry, short fiction a bit. I do have a couple of sort of collections. I mean, I wrote them myself, I published them myself, so I don't know.
That's awesome.
But
No, no, not at all. That's great.
I also have a lot of work in literary magazines and things.
Awesome. Fantastic. Charlene or Charlene's iPad? Oh, it says connecting to audio.
Yeah, she's connecting.
All right. Cindy Neisender, are you here?
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Hey, I'll put my camera on later. Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
I also have no formal education. I started writing after I retired, and I love it. I'm a workshop junkie, and you'll see me all kinds of workshops. And I like all genres, and I try everything, but I never submit. So maybe next year's goal is to start submitting stuff. Fun fact about me is I found some historical books in my backyard. I wrote an article for the Press Enterprise, and some guys picked it up, production company. They're making a documentary about this person, and I'm going to be an animated character in it.
Wow, that's awesome.
I know, it's so cool.
I'm totally jealous. That might be the thing I'm most jealous of.
I'm surprised too.
I want to be an animated character now. That's now a goal. You've given me a new bucket list item. That's awesome.
Out of nowhere. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. Let's see. I think Gita.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I have been writing on and off, I think, since last year. I'm trying to be more serious about it, writing both poetry and prose. I'm a visual artist as well.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm really interested. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. What kind of visual art do you do? Painting or?
Yeah, I do painting, sculpture, watercolors, contemporary art, so not really too realistic.
That's awesome. I am so jealous. I think watercolor is one of the hardest things I've ever attempted, and I sucked at it terribly. But that's fantastic. Welcome.
Thank
and then
you.
Let's see. Looks like Charlene might still be connecting to the audio. And is Joy here? All right, maybe not. All right, so cool. Why don't we get started? Thank you all for indulging me with that. I really appreciate it. I know that was a little bit of time, but I like knowing who I'm talking to. So what I would like to do is we're gonna write a poem today. And the idea is to write a poem from memory. So I'm gonna ask you a series of questions. Before I do that, I'm gonna ask you to think back to any memory. And I will say this, it can be any memory and you can write about anything you want. It doesn't make me uncomfortable. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a traumatic memory or if it's, it can be anything. It can be a sex memory if you want to make it that. I don't care. But it's obviously more about what you feel comfortable sharing. No one needs to share anything they don't want to share. So I think of a memory from your past, and it can be a recent past or it can be all the way back to childhood. And I think the thing that is probably best to try and focus on is any memory that is really strong, like a powerful memory, especially anything where there is like one thing that really sticks out to you, like the smell of freshly cut grass or brewing coffee, or, you know, a really vivid image that you have in your mind. Just some kind of strong detail to work as an anchor and to draw you back into that memory. And so what I'm going to do now is, and I'll put these questions up, I'll share my screen and put these questions up when I'm done asking them. But first, I'm just going to read them, and I'm going to go kind of fast because the goal here is to get you to write them out, write out the answers as fast as possible. And I think I'm going to go for like, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute for answers. So anyway, here's the first question, assuming you have the memory. And if you don't, you can jump right in and it'll be scary and that'll be awesome. In this memory, I need to pull out my stopwatch. I'm sorry, 1 second. In this memory, are you alone or are there others with you? And if there are others, how many others? Who are they? That's a lot, I know. Okay, if you're not quite finished, don't worry about it. We can come back to it. In this memory, what are you wearing? And also, what are the other people in the memory wearing? And do your clothes say anything about who you are? Or do the clothes of the other people say anything about who they are? Is it a uniform, maybe? Okay. In this memory, are you holding or carrying anything? Are the other people holding or carrying anything? All right. Let's see. I just asked if you were carrying anything. Oh, it looks like I've got a question. Just joined. Can you please copy to me the exercise? I can't see the previous chat. Hi, Edna. Yeah. So I'm just I'll catch you up to speed real quick since I didn't type it out. But basically, I'm asking everyone to think of a memory from any time, recent past or childhood. Preferably a strong, powerful memory, something that sticks out. And you can write about anything you want. Obviously, if it's something painful that you don't want to share with everyone else, you don't have to share it. But you can write about anything. Yeah, the first question, well, actually, I'm gonna ask a series of questions, and I've already asked a few, so I'm gonna keep going with that list, but I'll share the entire list at the end of this. So in this memory, what is it? What are you doing? Or if there are other people in the memory with you, what are they doing?
Biggest customer. Half of the tea made here, and almost all of the premium grade stuff, most similar to Darjeeling, is bought by India. For Nepalese owners, India stirring up trouble is just about protecting market share. I think that
All right. So next question. In this memory, are you outside or inside? If you're out, what is the weather? Is it warm or cold? Is it dry or wet? Or snowy? In California, we either have warm or cold and dry or wet. All right. In your memory, whether or not you're outside or inside, what are your immediate surroundings? Are there trees nearby or a refrigerator? What's nearby? What are you immediately surrounded by? And you don't have to go into great detail, just, you know, bullet list of what's nearby. Okay, and I know I'm going through these fast. Let's see. What city are you in? If that matters at all, but maybe it does. What city are you in? I don't think y'all need a lot of time on that one. For the next one, what time of day is it? Or is it night or whatever? You get the idea. Okay, for the next one, are there any distinct smells? Again, the examples I used earlier, freshly mown grass, brewing coffee, something else entirely. Are there any distinct smells in this memory? All righty. Is there anyone not with you but nearby? Can they see or hear you? Can you see or hear them? What is it they are saying or doing? I'll give you guys a little longer for that one. Okay. For the next question, what is the reason you or the group you're with are here, wherever you are in this memory? What is the reason you're there? All right. Few more left here. Two more. This is kind of a weird question too. Well, it's two questions. What is the temperature outside your body? I'm not talking about the day, if it's 73 degrees out or what side. I mean, what is the temperature on the outside of your body? And you feel free to interpret that however you wish. And then the second question that is obviously related, what is the temperature inside your body? I know that's a little strange, but whatever. I'll give you like, whatever, 30, 45 seconds. Temperature outside your body, temperature inside your body. All right. Last question. If you could say something to the you in the memory or to the others in the memory, what is it you would say? I'll give you like a minute on that one. Okay, I think that's close to a minute. So here, I'm gonna stop this. For let me go back to my Zoom window. I've been staring at a Word doc. Okay, so the next step is all these answers that you just really quickly jotted down. Take all that information and don't try to write a poem about it just yet, but just write down the memory as with as much detail as you can. Incorporate all the images you have in your head, all the smells that might be there, all the weird information like what the temperature inside your body is, what would you say to the you in your memory, that kind of thing. And I'm going to share my screen and put this list of questions up for everyone to look at. And if I can find it, there it is. And yeah, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put like a 5-minute timer on my phone. And then I am going to step away real quick because someone's knocking on my door. I'll be right back. So sorry, that was a friendly neighbor with terrible timing. Okay, we'll go another 30 seconds or so. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to kill that screen share for just a second. So the next step is, do I have anyone brave enough to volunteer what they wrote down? Yeah, Randy, let's hear it.
Yeah, I want to be sure, though, you did say not to, I don't have to try and write poetry, just writing about the memory, right?
Yeah, at this point, we're just focusing on the memory itself, not so much trying to do anything other than that.
I'm young, maybe 7, I don't know. My mother and I are in the supermarket. It's Sunday in the afternoon, I think. We're in the fresh fruit section. We've already put a number of things in our basket. My mother is asking me to pick out good fruit for us. Sometimes I choose something she has an objection to and she tells me why. Other times she praises me for my choice. For some reason, I remember the apples in particular. They're red, small, hard, with sharp skins, not like apples today. It's like, I picked 3 of them and she tells me what a good job I've done. And it makes me feel so good. She's, I'm sorry, this is so silly, because it would mean nothing to anyone else, but she's including me and helping with my ability to make decisions. And I love her so much. I wish I still had her in my life.
Thank you for sharing that. And
I know that sounds so, it's not a big emotional thing for others, but
that's the point
I
of,
miss her quite a bit.
yeah, man, no, please don't worry about that. And that's why we write these things. And trust me, you feeling that way is the key to letting other people feel that way and deal with maybe their own grief. And I know over the last year and a half, we've all had at least, well, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for the entire world, but we've all had a lot of grief, I think. And that's one of the reasons I love doing this so much, is it allows us to communicate these really important things to us. And I'll say, like, then I'll shut up. one of my favorite things, excuse me, I'm going through puberty. One of my favorite things that I've ever written is kind of a really dark, horrible poem. about my father and I, but one of the reasons that it matters so much to me is because I have read it at various readings and I've had so many people come up to me afterwards and say, yeah, me too. And it's a really powerful connection to make with someone. And so sharing what you just shared, I guarantee you there are a lot of us here, myself included, who absolutely understand the emotion you're feeling there. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's important for us to write, even if it's not for publication. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Does anyone else want to share what they came up with?
Thank you for stirring it up. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's sad but sweet memory, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. Kate, I see your hand up.
We'd come from all over the world, the Germans and Dutch most noticeable. We're dressed for adventure, most in the latest zip-off pants. Me in my wild patterned turquoise, baggy and comfortable. I carry a backpack with water and a light jacket in case. It's joyful weather, warm inside and out. The tropical trees reach out to touch me as the elephant picks its way down the trail, a bit muddy, but no slippage. The mahout sings to his charge, a female with baby walking along. I ride atop in a basic wooden chair, sagging right, then left with the elephant's stride. I can't wait to get to the village, deep within the jungle, better than my dreams.
Yeah, he was really big. He and his wife both lost a lot of weight recently.
Sorry. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kate. I appreciate that. Really love that. Does anyone else have anything that they are willing to share? If I could, I'd like to hear from maybe 4 or 5 people.
People have their hands up virtually.
Oh, do they? I'm terrible at that. Oh, hey, okay, I see. So thank you, John. I'm terrible at seeing that. Carrie and then Marie.
All right. Okay, a room full of people. I'm up to their knees, wearing a dress with lace tights, patent leather shoes. People carry drinks. When they set them down, I drink the last few sips. People think it's cute. A dim room lit only by lamps shaped like naked ladies. They belong to a bad man here in San Antonio. This night full of cigarette smoke, rum and coke, gin and tonic. Where is my mom? I can see her, but I can hear her voice, but I cannot see her. Want to hold her hand, hide in the folds of her skirt. Someone is dead, someone I never knew. The sweat clings to places I didn't know were there. I want to tell myself, crawl under the table, wait until the party is over.
Nice. Thank you. That's fantastic. Let's see, Marie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm Marie from Manchester, UK.
Nice.
I don't know if you are sharing anything or something specific.
The answers to the questions you wrote there, like the memory that you wrote about, if you came in on time for that.
Well, I came late.
Okay.
No, I meant like, can I share anything that I wrote, or was it a specific theme?
No, it was a specific thing. I just asked several questions to the group. I asked people to think of a memory from their past, and then I asked several questions specific to that memory. And then I was asking them to, spend a few minutes writing about that, and then asking to share that specifically. If you want, I can send you the link there, the questions in the chat.
Okay. No, I was going to say, can I share? Okay, memory. Yes, it's from a memory, and it's from a past relationship. Will that be still?
Yeah, for sure.
Valid.
Yeah, absolutely valid. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna read now then.
Okay, great. Sorry.
I hope you can hear me properly.
I can.
It's like a poem. The title is Divorcing You. Divorce was never a word I would willingly add to my vocabulary. It was never an option I would suggest or consider. Marriage was for life until death do us part, I believe. but I believed. I never imagined my life without you once we said I do. Even your mistreatment and indifference didn't awaken that option in my mind. Once you proudly disposed of me, once you rubbed the rug under our children's feet, once I didn't have to please you no more, my eyes opened. It wasn't pretty at first. The memory of your mean ways came flooding. The sound of your disappointed voice came haunting. The images of your disgusted look towards me wouldn't leave. My mind was tortured with questions, mostly starting with why. I had to make sense of things. I had to find answers. I tried to give meanings to your actions, even tried to justify them. But what I was getting back was injustice. What I was getting back was unfairness. What I was getting back was abuse. It hit me. It hit me hard. It brought tears to my eyes. The tears I couldn't shed as I was subjected to your treatment. The tears I couldn't shed as I had to stay strong and keep trying. The tears I couldn't shed because I had innocent souls watching. I could allow myself to feel. I could allow myself to grieve. I could allow myself to be vulnerable. I didn't have your watchful eyes on me anymore. You were not there anymore, that's right. I was not going to be the subject of your ridicule anymore. There was no one to belittle me anymore. No one to make me feel useless or worthless. I didn't need to cry anymore. I had to rejoice, yes. I started rejoicing. I still shed tears, but tears of relief, tears of liberation, tears of lightness, tears of happiness. I stopped seeing the reflection of myself in your eyes. I started seeing what was not wrong with me. I started seeing myself in the eyes of those who appreciate me. I regained confidence in my abilities. I got to know myself better. And guess what? I fell in love with myself. Even though you set me free from the entanglement of your web, you didn't divorce me. That piece of paper, that marriage certificate is like an umbilical cord. I'm still the one who was left. I'm still a survivor. It's time for me to take charge. It's time to cut that umbilical cord. It's time for me to set myself free. Now I see the usefulness of that word I once dreaded. I made sense of it. I came to terms with it. I'm ready and willing to use it. I am divorcing you.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Mommy.
I like that.
Mommy.
Tom, I think you had your hand up as well.
Mommy. Wait. Sorry, wait.
Oh, I think we're on the writing down the notes to your questions, and I think I just kind of skipped over that. So I wasn't sure if you're ready for a poem yet.
Oh, well, share me. Yeah, what do you have?
Okay, I was writing while you were giving the questions.
That works.
Yeah. Let's see. Don't bite me. Okay. Crossing the railroad tracks with Mom and Dad for the first time. Mom said that she used to come to Laverne a lot growing up. Surprise to me, I'd never heard of Laverne before in my life. We drove through the town, past the college, then by the cemetery. The new track of homes were not so new anymore. They were at least 2 years old. We had fun exploring a few of the houses, then found our new home, a 5-bedroom, 2-story, seeming mansion that we loved. I dreamed of the new life I would live, the new school, where maybe I would be happy again.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you. God, I'm really digging all this. Anyone else want to go, or should we move forward? All right. Oh, Cindy. Yes, let's hear it.
Okay, thanks. Running in the hills and rural Roland Heights with the cows and my first love. Kissing and laughing, talking and running, screaming and yelling, blonde hair flying like spaghetti in the wind, eyes like a scope of green. Hip huggers, white belts, crop tops, wallabies. We wore mood rings and fringe jackets. We drank Strawberry Hill. Billy Jack riles us up. Racism still front and center. Time in a Bottle is playing on a radio. It's fun. It's a party. It's adrenaline rush. It's hiding from our parents and cops, making out. Fun and anxiety, saying, everyone yelling, run. Talking and running and cows all over the pasture.
Nice.
Random.
I like it. I love the Billy Jack line.
Good.
Little interesting side note: if my father was if Billy Jack was like a Reagan Republican, that would be my father. My dad looks eerily like Tom Laughlin.
Great memory.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Anyone else, or should we move forward? Okay. So yeah, why don't we move forward then? So here's the next thing I want you to do. And thank you for sharing all that. I really loved hearing that. What I would like you to do now is, of the memory that you've written down, what is like the one image or the strongest image that really specifically calls that memory into your mind? And I'll give an example of that is after Randy read, I was just talking about a really dark, horrible poem I wrote about my father and I. So the poem essentially is my dad verbally abusing me and then poking me in the chest and then breaking his finger. And it's it's an ugly poem, but well, you know what I mean. The subject matter is ugly, but I was having the hardest time writing this poem, and so I just like sat back and closed my eyes and started searching. I just went right in as far into the memory as I could from a waking conscious state. And I tried to conjure up the image that came into my mind. And the image was sometimes when he would yell at me when I was a kid, I would like just hyper focus on his face and then on his mouth. And then like his mouth almost became the entire sky, if that makes any sense. And so I pictured his mouth and like the saliva, the curtains of saliva that were in the corners that were expanding and shrinking as he would yell and all that. And it's an unpleasant image, but it's an unpleasant memory. And all of a sudden, as soon as I started writing that down, it just came out like word vomit. And the final draft of the poem as it currently exists in my book is not drastically different from the rough draft that I wrote, because that image brought that out of me. So I'm going to ask you all to think of an image like that. What is the strongest image that this memory calls to mind? And then spend like, I don't know, let's just say another 5 minutes, I guess, writing that image. And then if you want to also like write more on, if you want to tack onto that image, you can. But my thought is like write as much of that image as vividly with as much description and detail as possible. And don't worry about whether or not it makes any sense to anyone other than yourself. It probably will. But yeah, spend about 5 minutes working on that image. And then I'm going to put a timer on my phone. And then I will interrupt people. And I'll ask more brave souls to share what they have. All right, timer's on. Okay, we'll go like another minute and a half. All right, we'll be wrapping it up in about 30 seconds. Okay, so if I could get some more folks, same people or different people, either way, to share the image that you came up with, or the image and whatever else it is you came up with in the last few minutes, that would be awesome. I would love to hear it. Cindy, and then Nano, and then Daniel, and then Aruni. I can remember 4 people's names over the next minute or so. That'll work. So why don't we start with Cindy? Cindy, I'm not sure, your mic is muted. So Cindy, we'll come back to you in a second, but Daniel?
Oh, okay. Skipped right over to me.
Oh, were you not next?
No,
I'm sorry.
That's okay, I'll do it.
All right, thank you. I knew I could remember the names. I just knew I couldn't remember the order too. That's just too much.
I wasn't going to read. I started with one image and then I finished with the second one, but then I realized they both go together. So I'm going to read them together. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
A shirt torn in half. Can't find the other arm. Switch and repeat from the other side. The breath bellows out the sacred truth unleashed in torrents of rhyme, of light and compassion, drawing deep laughter from hidden vaults opened, released, an explosion of freedom, of immensity, of recognition, of an adoration beyond understanding that would never be anywhere else, even when unseen.
Damn, awesome. Thank you, Daniel. Cindy? All right, well, Cindy, we'll come back to you again. And then Nano, you were offering to read?
Yep.
Awesome.
It's a long robe in a light cotton knit. The pattern, floral, blue and aqua green on white. Flattering to her once slim figure, it wraps around to cover increased bulk in belly and breast. Breast which leaked onto the fabric, milk now dried and smelling curdled at this end of the day. the skirt, there are sticky handprints across the front from the toddler's breakfast.
Wow. I love that. Thank you. Aruni, you had your hand up, I think.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. All of my party dresses are hand sewn by Achi. This dress is a long sleeved maxi made of striped floral fabric, pink and pale green on a white background. All my dresses have feminine details like eyelet lace on the yoke and collar and ruffled cuffs at the wrists. I also have a white linen petticoat to wear under my party clothes, pin tucked at the chest, a white ruffle with cotton white eyelet lace at the hem. My favorite detail of my party dress is the wide pink satin ribbon sash tied at the back in a big bow, streamers of pink that reach the wide ruffle at the hem. I have white knee socks and white patent leather Mary Janes to complete the outfit, and a pink ribbon around the base of each of my pigtails. I am so carefully dressed for the birthday party, even though other kids in the neighborhood arrive in corduroy pants and t-shirts or other casual play clothes. It is especially humiliating when I have to walk back across the street dripping chlorinated puddles after Denise Warsaw pushes me in the Ennison's above ground swimming pool, my pink sash dragging behind me like ribbons of pale kelp.
Holy crap. Good Lord, Aruni. Yeah, that's really beautiful. I mean, that's obviously, I want to go back in time and smack that kid, but I mean, that's just really, I love the ribbons of pale kelp. That is really good. Thank you. Thank you for that.
May I ask a question? Not read something, may I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you mention clothing in this question? I'm trying to go back to what you just said because everyone has talked about clothing, and what I wrote had to do with clothing too. Did you ask about clothing?
I did ask, there was one question where I asked what you were wearing or what the people in your memory were wearing. Yeah.
I meant this last thing, but okay. I just wondered if it was a coincidence that everyone was thinking of clothing, or did you mention that specifically?
No, not only in that question.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's clothing is such a weirdly, they say smell is like a really powerful doorway into the past, and it is, but like I find that, whatever the uniform that our parents came home from work in, or what, in my dad's case, it was a short sleeve dress shirt with a really ugly 70s striped tie, white ass knot with an even wider base. It was just, and he was fairly conservative for the 70s, but everything was a little crazier in the 70s fashion wise. And when I see that, and I almost never see a short sleeve dress shirt anymore, but when I see one, especially worn with a tie, it immediately screams like 1975 to me. And it just brings back all kinds of memories, mostly unpleasant, but a few good ones. Yeah, clothing is a really powerful one. Michelle, looks like you have your hand up, and so does Perry. So,
hello.
Hey.
This is Michelle.
All right. Hey, great.
So read your thing.
Oh, okay. I was in the bathroom in 6th grade with my dad, and he wanted to spank me, but I accidentally pushed him in the bathtub and then ran to my mom in the front part of the house. I accidentally pushed Dad in the bathtub. That was the last time I was spanked by my father.
This was the 60s, remember? They spanked it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, they did in the 70s too. Trust me.
I know. Well, it sounds like your spanking was a little bit different.
No, mine. Yeah, no, my spankings. I don't think I write about spankings.
That was spanking. That was a beating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that though. That's fantastic. I wish I could implant that memory into my own. That'd be such a wonderful memory.
You can co-opt it.
Awesome. I appreciate that offer. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle. Okay, Perry.
A world lives behind the house, in the bushes, between the birch trees, just beyond the newly placed lawn, and we, no fresher than its roots, scramble over moss that carpets sun-soaked stones. The bedrock sparkles between blueberry bushes, and we push greedy fingers into their giving bellies, emerging triumphant with fists full of fruit, fingers stained purple as we shove their tender bodies into our mouths, dripping sweetness down the corners of our lips.
Wow. Yeah, remember earlier when I was saying you didn't really need a formal education in poetry? That's fantastic. I love that. The pushing your fingers into their bellies, the bellies of the bushes, right?
Yeah.
What was the phrasing?
I have to find it. We push greedy fingers into their giving bellies.
Their giving bellies. That is so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I love that.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share? Kate.
So I took one line from what I had written before.
Awesome.
The mahout sings in a tenor range, words I cannot know, in a Thai dialect of the far north. It sounds soothing, yet he strikes the elephant with a pronged metal stick that raises a bead of blood on her hide. Bead after bead, song after song. This relationship hurts me and the elephant, but I am within a culture I don't know and I cannot judge. The elephant responds to mahout and mahout needs obedience. Is there such thing here as an elephant whisperer?
Wow. Damn. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. I really appreciate the I guess the cultural sensitivity or cultural humility there too. That's fantastic. Does anyone else have anything, or should we move on? All righty. So what am I going to talk about next?
Did you get Michelle already, Tim?
Yeah, Tom, I didn't skip over Michelle, right? That was the bathtub.
Yeah, I didn't lower hand. Maybe I'll go do that for her.
Okay, no worries. But thank you for asking, Daniel. All right, so the next thing is, well, you know what? I'm going to actually, I swear to God, this isn't for the purposes of pushing my poetry on you, but I wanted to talk about this idea of what matters to a poem, especially in relation to our own memories. I am going to read that poem I was telling you about earlier, Randy, this one where my father is poking me in the chest. So this is just called Concerto, and it's kind of short. My father's mouth, a broken record stuck on the same sadistic song, teeth jaundiced from decades of coffee and cigarettes, towers over me, a cankerous storm cloud. Saliva stretches, then shrinks at the sides. Sickly stage curtains swish open and shut for a performance that never really begins or ends. Deep, sharp pain in my chest pulls my eyes up to his lunatic glare. Right hand raised, index finger extended. I forgot to say one before that. This is in 3 parts. 2, like a conductor's baton, he brings it down. Stupid, his finger stabs my chest so hard I wonder if he's drawn blood. Fucking another stab digs in me up to the first knuckle. Loser, I've never hurt like this. He keeps laying into me, each downbeat the perfect demeaning accent to a dehumanizing verbal spike. My throat feels tight like I'm swallowing cotton as he drums an endless staccato of hate speech. Worthless, goddamn moron. His finger comes in wrong and breaks, immediately purpling to twice its size, cradling one hand with the other. He comes in close, searches my face, dares me, begs me to appreciate the irony before he leaves in search of an ice pack. 3, in the bathroom, I stand shirtless under the humiliating glare of the fluorescent, and I count 37 fingertip reminders that I'm stupid and worthless. I take the blade out of my father's safety razor and lightly drag it across my chest, slicing staff lines for my father's notes. I stand back and look at myself. Bloody sheet music for a bastard's concerto. So, wow. So here's the thing. Thank you. Here's the thing about that poem. One, it was that image of the mouth. Thank you, Rudy. It was that image of the mouth that drew me into that memory and allowed me to express everything the way I expressed it. And then two, I never was a cutter. I have all kinds of, like, I have decades worth of self-loathing and self-abuse and all kinds of, things that happen with child abuse survivors. But I never was a cutter. That was one thing that I didn't do. But when I thought of that, my memory, I still have the memory in my head of like the night that I went to shower, and it looked on my chest, honestly, like sheet music. And so that image of the sheet music came back to mind as I was writing this, and I thought, well, the bloody staff lines, right? And that just went into my head. So that's me playing fast and loose with the truth. So here's the sentence that I think is one of the most important things when we are writing poetry based on our memory. The sentence is, our memories are sacred and our poetry is not. And what I mean by that is that our memories are who we are. And that's integral to all of our identity and everything. And they can stand exactly as they are. But when you are writing a poem, or at least when you're writing a poem with the idea of sending it out into the world for public consumption, I do not believe in being slavishly true to the memory. That's for the memory. Whatever changes you have to make to the poem in service of the poem, I think is fine. Is it true that I cut myself? No, it's not. And, it's a lie. But it's a lie that I told in sacrifice to a stronger ending to the poem. There are things that in various poems that I've written about, various details that may have been omitted because they frankly got in the way of the message I was trying to convey with a poem, or they just weren't important to the overall tone of the poem, whatever it is. There's a variety of reasons you delete things or even add details in that aren't necessarily true, as I did with this poem. It was, by the way, Michelson Knapp, for any of you who happen to know Michelson, who first said those words to me: our memories are sacred, our poetry is not. I believe poetry itself is sacred for what it's worth, but when we are writing something for other people to read, I believe that everything comes at the expense of the written work, including the truth, unless we're writing a nonfiction piece, in which case, obviously, there's a different set of priorities. So yeah, if I ever were to write an autobiography about my young life, which I, for the record, never will, but if I were to do that, obviously names and all that would have to be changed. But there are even whole parts of my childhood that I would just happily leave out, wouldn't even make it to the initial draft of the work, because a work written for public consumption ultimately has to have, has to have a theme, and it has to have a consistent tone to it, in my opinion. At least that's personally what I would strive for if I were doing that. Not if, when I do that. Anyway, so that said, I would like one last round of this, and then we'll wrap it up. I think we're going, if I remember correctly, I think we're going until 11:45, or sorry, 12:45. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm failing to find my slot on the schedule, but I appreciate that. So I would like to go through, let's see, I'm just reading some of your comments here. This is an ethical question when you write about others, like your father, when you twist the truth, isn't it? So actually, I'm glad you brought that up. It is an ethical question. I didn't. I think it's important, at least for that poem, to note that the only truth I twisted was my own behavior, my own actions, my own choices. Everything else is reflective of what happened, and the spirit of that event in my life is very much conveyed in the poem. I also want to say this: my dad has never shown any interest in any of the poetry I've written. He's never asked to see any of the poetry I've written. I wrote this poem because I won an award for something else I wrote, and then the prize was I got to read in front of oh gosh, I can't remember her name right now, which is a shame because she's amazing. Natalie Diaz, a fantastic native poet, and I wanted to read something that didn't suck. So I went out of my way to do my best to write this poem, and it got recorded, and then it was uploaded to YouTube, and then the YouTube video was shared to Facebook. And at this point in time, my dad and I were still friends on Facebook. We are not friends on Facebook anymore because he abused that privilege. In any case, he saw the video of me reading this poem, and then he beat around the bush for months and months about, maybe someday he'll write a poem about me. And I was like, yeah, you never know. I knew he'd seen the video, obviously, but it boils down to this: when he finally confronted me about it, he basically said to me, "Why are you writing poetry about me?" And here's my response: I am not writing poetry about him or frankly anyone else. I'm writing about myself. I'm writing about my own experiences that I have lived through, and in some cases suffered through. And if it upsets him how he comes across in a poem I have written about me and something that I went through, then maybe it would have behooved him to be less of a dick when I was growing up. And I love him. This book is dedicated to him. But it is an ethical question. It's one I struggled with. And I ultimately settled on, this is my life. This is my experience. And this is my way of artistically communicating all that. So love my father, and I'm gonna speak the truth as I see it and continue to see it. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for asking that, Ed, and I really appreciate it, because it's actually an important thing. When we're writing about our memories, it inevitably will include other people. I think the point is, I think the goal is to stick as close as possible to our truth and to implicate only ourselves. And if we implicate others, then, just be damn sure that we're not making stuff up. Okay, so I contend that all writing is autobiography, and 2, all writing is fiction. I love that, Aruni, and we're running out of time, so I'm not gonna go on with that, but I love that. The only chances of me ever writing an autobiography would be if I totally twist it and turn it into a magical realism version of like an autobiography. Kind of, Neil Gaiman did something similar, although it's not autobiography at all, but with his novel Ocean at the End of the Lane. But okay, so here's what I'd like you to do. Poetry is emotion recollected in tranquility. It's about creating emotional space, not necessarily an exact lifelong crafting an experience to elicit emotion. I love that. Thank you for that, Perry. And I agree. All right, so real quick, let's spend 5 minutes, and here's the final goal. I would like you to see if you can take, this is just an experiment, take the 2 things you've written, the memory itself that you wrote, and then this image that you wrote, and try and turn them into a new thing. Synthesize them into a new thing. Maybe, you wind up ditching 75% of the memory, or maybe you stick really close to the memory and incorporate a lot of the image that you wrote in the second part of that into it. It's entirely up to you, of course. So I'm going to put a 5-minute timer on my phone, and then that's starting now. And I would love to hear what people come up with. Ocean at the End of the Lane is one of my favorite books, Lavina. And I guess there's a play of it right now in London, and I'm really upset that I'm not in London.
Yeah, great to see it.
Yeah. I'm going to step away to get a drink. I'll be right back. All right, we'll wrap up in about 2 more minutes. About 30 more seconds. Okay. So, does anyone feel like sharing what you came up with? Awesome, Lavina.
Find it again. I get into the flowing water of the Middle Branch River, shivering, walking out a ways on the slippery stones and slime at the bottom. After a while, Dad holds me up while I kick my legs and arms. We are in shadow. Someone calls to Dad and he lets go of me. I sink. My head is underwater. I don't know if I should kick now, but I am kicking. And then Dad pulls me up. I can breathe again and I am mad. I tell Dad I want to go in. I did not know if he would save me from drowning, but now I don't trust him. And he does not argue. He almost never argues. He hardly talks to us. He's the boss. What he does say goes. But this time I am the boss, only in saying no to something I wanted very badly to learn. I am freezing. My mother wraps me in a towel, stands me in the sunshine. I want to cry, to blame, to say my father tried to drown me, although I know it is not true. I am so hungry, and the hot dog drowned in sweet ketchup is a little bit of happiness in my mouth as I chew.
Nice. That's awesome. I love that. And I didn't have that exact experience, but I remember those shocking moments of childhood where you're just like all your whole perception changes that something like that can happen. And that's that really calls that back to the front of my mind. That's great. Thank you. Other volunteers? Anyone? Nana?
Done mute here.
Okay.
So I just took that image, a little bit tweaked, and then added onto it. It's a long robe in a light cotton knit. The pattern is floral, blue and aqua green on white. Flattering to her once slim figure, it wraps around and ties at the side, covering increased bulk in belly and breasts. Breasts which leaked into the fabric, milk now dried and smelling curdled in the darkening twilight of this rainy day. There are sticky handprints down the front from the toddler's breakfast of applesauce and oatmeal. She sits in a quaint house in an enviable location, a valley just 15 minutes outside of St. Helena, Napa Valley, far enough to be isolating for this new mother of two babies in 2 years. One baby cries for an hour every evening when the sun disappears over the hill too soon. In this narrow wooded valley, one toddler wanting dinner and more of his mother than she can give now that she has another baby too soon. Missing from this picture is the father, tall, dark, and handsome, popular with the ladies, not home from work yet again, not here to bring in more wood to stoke the fires in the cold house, to feed the toddler or take the crying baby out of her hands.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really love that. Yeah, I agree. Wow. Anyone else have anything to share?
Thanks in advance for this session, Tim. It's been really great.
Well, thank you, Randy. I appreciate that.
And can I make a request?
Yes.
Can you read something else from your book? And may I request something specific?
Yes and yes.
Can you read the poem that you wrote about when you saw a fish when you were camping that you wrote in last year's Culturama and it made it into your book?
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Tim.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking. You know, I'm always happy to make this about me. Yeah, I forgot. This is the first poem in the book now. So this is called Lake Sabrina, spelled Sabrina, but for whatever reason, the locals call it Sabrina. I've always known it as Sabrina. Lake Sabrina, 1973. Wandering through a gray day, heavy and wet. There's little light left. I'm away from my parents, but I can still see the sky blue Dodge van, far enough away from my parents that I'm alone. In the forest, alone in the world, away from the chaos of home, closets to hide in, my father's countless failed attempts at sobriety, trudging through the woods around the lake. I see a brightly colored fish, a goldfish, a koi, in a tiny creek, little more than a trickle, swimming where? Home to the lake? Away from it? Could he stay in the creek? Can he do that? Can I? An adult, thick with brown hair, leaves and twigs crunching under tan work boots, gathers wood for a fire. Some words are exchanged. Won't you get in trouble from chopping down trees? I only take wood that's already dead. I didn't know wood could die. I didn't know it could live. The man feels safe, responsible. I'm surrounded by trees, too small to hide behind, and I don't know the way home. So I keep walking and eventually find my way back to my father, his hands speckled, red with the blood and scales of a trout, its mouth opening and closing. Opening, his fingers curl around its guts. Closing, he tears them from its body. Opening, he calls this cleaning the fish. Closing, the smell of Coors and Camel cigarettes, heavy in the air like a low fog, rolling in off the water.
I know that.
Yeah. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, everyone.
I love that one. And I remember you writing it in Culturama and thinking, I hope this finds a place. Look what can happen at Culturama, people.
I think it got published in Choya Needles too, at least maybe a previous version of it.
Can we have one more link to your book, Tim? I want to buy it today.
Yeah, I will. Let's see. You know what? I'm gonna put up the link to the publisher's page, but I already closed that tab. So I'll put up a link to the book's page on my website, and the publishers. The links to purchase it are on this page, and the link to the publisher's page is on there as well. And there you go. That's the link. And geez, thank you everyone for sharing. I really appreciate it. I loved hearing what you guys came up with. It was really fantastic. And we're ending about 2 minutes early. So for me, that's like a total win because I usually go way late.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Tim. I think that was great. So I'll just give you some applause here.
Thank you. Here, I'll give you one of these.
All right. So up next is Mark Givens from who is Tim Hatch's publisher, and
yes,
really just a wonderful person. And I hope you come back later for Anders as well. You can just stay in this room. You don't have to leave. It's not a different Zoom link. It's just my Zoom link. So I'll see you next event.
Awesome.